Hey, church, it's just Clark this week. Chris is moving his daughter and son-in-law up to Michigan this weekend, so make sure we're praying for them. But he'll be with us next week. This week, the passage that we're going to be looking at is Matthew 14, verses 13 through 21, which is the miracle feeding of the 5,000. So I'm going to read it real quick for you out of the NIV. It says, when Jesus heard what had happened, he withdrew by boat privately to a solitary place. Hearing of this, the crowds followed him on foot from the towns. When Jesus landed and saw a large crowd, he had compassion on them and healed their sick. As evening approached, the disciples came to him and said, "This is a remote place and it's already getting late. Send the crowds away so they can go to the villages and buy themselves some food." Jesus replied, "They do not need to go away. You give them something to eat." "We have here only 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish," they answered. "Bring them here to me," he said, and he directed the people to sit down on the grass. Taking the 5 loaves and the 2 fish and looking up to heaven, he gave thanks and broke the loaves. Then he gave them to the disciples, and the disciples gave them to the people. They all ate and were satisfied, and the disciples picked up 12 basketfuls of broken pieces that were left over. The number of those who ate were about 5,000 men, besides women and children. So this scene, and I'll get to how the comparison here is there's the movie, 20 years ago, The Lord of the Rings. The third one, the movie The Return of the King, there's this scene where the King of Gondor sends just, stupidly and without any feeling, like 50 or 100 of his best riders to go attack a city defended by orcs, and he's sending these 50 or 100 guys to go fight this 1,000-man, 10,000 orc army that's just going to slaughter them. And that's what has. So in this scene, the director has it so that the guys are riding, and as they're riding towards the city, going to their deaths, he's also cutting back and showing the king who sent them there sitting in his palace, eating and being sung to in luxury. And so you have this contrast of these men going to their deaths while the king who sent them there is sitting and eating in luxury. And that contrast is really powerful, right? It's a powerful message. And I think the best way to understand this story of the miracle of the loaves and the fishes is also to look at it in contrast to the story that was right before this. In verses 1 through 12, there's this story of the King Herod, different Herod than the one at the beginning of Matthew, but the King Herod, right? Here's about Jesus. He has a huge party, right? This huge luxurious party. He has his daughter, his daughter-in-law dance for him, entertain the guests, and he's so happy. He says, "You can have whatever you want." And she knows her mother hates John the Baptist, who's in prison, so she says, "Give me the head of John the Baptist." And Herod, out of fear of displeasing her, of breaking his own promise, he doesn't want to make everyone else mad. Even though he doesn't want to kill John the Baptist, he does what she asks and has him killed, just so that everyone else is happy, right? You have this violent, brutal, awful scene followed by Jesus. That's why he needed to withdraw privately when he heard what happened. He had heard what happened to John the Baptist, and he wants to go be by himself. But what does Jesus do? He sees the crowds and he has compassion on them, right? He cares for them. He then feeds them and cares for them, right? Think about the difference between these two kings. King Herod, who is brutal, violent, afraid of the crowds. He's just doing whatever he can to get by for himself. He's foolish. He's manipulated. He gets played. He finds himself in a tight corner he can't get out of, and he has to do something he doesn't want to do. Sound like our world? People just doing whatever they can do to save their skin, so that they can stay popular. That's what Herod was doing. And we, as Jesus's people, have a different kind of king. We have a compassionate King Jesus. We have a king who is not selfish, but instead is self-giving. I mean, he's completely in control in this entire situation, right? And we have this community that's completely different. All these people come to Jesus The disciples say, look, we don't have anything, Jesus. We don't have what it takes. And Jesus says, just bring me the food that you have. Bring me the 5 loaves of bread. Bring me the 2 fish. Let me take care of the rest. He gives thanks, right? He takes it. He gives thanks for it. He breaks the bread. He gives it to his people. Kind of like what we do every Sunday, the Lord's Supper, right? We take the bread, we give thanks, we break it, we give to one another. Um, that's the community of Jesus. He takes what little we have to offer. We offer what little we have. He takes it and he multiplies it. And in this community, you see what happens. It's enough. If we give what we have to Jesus, it will be enough. He is the perfect king. He's not selfish. He's not doing things just so that he can be popular and be in charge. He is satisfying us, right? That's what it says in verse 20. They all ate and were satisfied, right? That's the community of God's people. It's a community that is not just physically taken care of as we share our possessions with one another. We're physically taken care of, but we're emotionally satisfied, spiritually satisfied, relationally satisfied when we take what little we have and we give it to Jesus and we just let him be the one who does the work. It doesn't mean we don't do anything. We take the little we have, we give it to him, we give it to the perfect king, and he takes care of our community. So let's think about that this week, how different Jesus is from the rulers of our world, the leaders of our world, the community of the world, how different the kingdom of God is, how different our king is, and how satisfying it is um, when we're underneath his rule. So that's what I got for this week. Hope to see a lot of you tonight, and God bless.